Well, good morning, and I hope you're well. Sort of feel like we're getting in the Christmas spirit here, the snow on the ground. Anyway, I was just thinking more about my faith and my music and how, for all of us, God leads us to Him with the things He gives us, and that's our life. And I was thinking, I've been talking about kind of peripherally practice and how practice can become a form of practicing your faith, and in music you practice so that you become more familiar with your instrument, that you become more comfortable. And I got to thinking then about what is effective practice. I learned slowly and the hard way that doing the same thing over and over counted as practice. But it was not necessarily getting me to my goal. Now, I'm just a kid now, and I'm playing accordion, and play a song, and you learn the song, and there's the spots where you have the wrong notes. And I didn't know what to do with the wrong notes. I thought they would just go away if I just kept playing the song. And what I didn't realize is that I was learning the mistakes better and better. And so that was a great lesson to learn, but it was a little frustrating. It would have been nice to have a little bit of guidance in there. The first thing I learned is that, and I think I've said this before, is it's pretty rare that you make a different mistake each time in a passage of music. It's usually the same mistake. And so that's really nice to know, because there's nothing random about it. There's really nothing random about anything. But once you know where the mistake is, then the next thing is, how do I fix it? So you need guidance, I think, especially as a child. And in school, I think this is so important not to have in the child's head, just get it right. And if you didn't get it right, just try again. Instead of, well, hang on, let's see why you didn't get it right. And it's very encouraging when you explain that to a child, that the mistake they made was often very logical. Something else glitched up and you went to the wrong letter or the wrong number or the wrong note, but there's probably a reason for it. In music, 9 times out of 10, both hands are doing something complicated, and no matter what they say about multitasking, you can only concentrate on one particular physical motion at a time. And so if my left hand doesn't know what to do automatically, and I think about my right hand, my left hand is going to do something different. And I'm probably not going to be aware of it because I'm thinking so much about my right hand. And lots of times I'll say to a kid, they're holding a chord, I say, that's not a right note. And they'll think only in terms of the right hand, not the left hand, because they're focused on the right hand. Usually that's where the melody is. Usually we tend to think the problem is in the melody. And that's just in music. And then I went on to think that this is true in so many things. We do a lot of things simultaneously, but we only can really concentrate on one specific thing, especially if we're learning and it's a new task. Thank God we can breathe. What is it? Automatic responses, breathing, and all the things we need to do we don't have to think about. Our brain has mastered those, and we can walk down the street without thinking about how to walk. But we're paying attention to other things. So we have this great capacity to do a lot, and yet at the same time, we can only really think about one thing at a time. And in music, it's very complicated because you're thinking about all the things that your fingers are doing and how each one is controlled and where it needs to go. It's extremely complicated. And it's so easy to make a mistake, but it's hard to figure out the mistake, especially if you're a kid. Even for myself now, sometimes I lapse, the next time through I won't make that mistake, and I make that mistake the next time through. And what I learned to do is make the mistake and kid myself into believing I won't do it the next time, and do it the next time, and then I'll kid myself into thinking it. Because knowing the right thing isn't the same thing as doing the right thing, or in the music, the proper thing. So what I try to tell kids is that music is a dance for your hands. And each finger is like, maybe a leg or something, but everything needs to be working in unison together, and you have to be aware of not only the part that you're using, the finger or the leg, but what is the rest of your body doing to support that? and then it's going to shift the action to something else. So in the end, the song is almost irrelevant. It's how do I get from the beginning to the end in the most graceful, efficient way possible and express the intent of the composer. And so to me, this is practice, is learning in music, how do I dance, without stepping on my partner's toes or without tripping or falling. And then, of course, so I'm thinking about, well, what about faith? The other thing I was thinking about with music is that Jesus never says, be him or be God. He always says, try to be like him. And he gives us examples of, the best behaviors or the best things to do. We're nowhere near able to do that, and he knows that. But all we're supposed to do is to try to be like him. And to me, then, okay, now this is really practice. Because when I was a kid, most of us, right, we learn, like you learn the 10 Commandments. Don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, do this, don't do that, don't do that. And we think that because we learned how to say them, we know how to do them. But we don't, right? When I was a kid, I didn't know what half of those things meant. And even now, things have a profounder, more deeper meaning to me. Like, the one I always think about is don't lie. And I think, well, yeah, lying, on the surface is very easy. Well, don't tell a lie. You always got in trouble if you told a lie. But why did you tell the lie? 9 times out of 10, you told the lie because you didn't want to get hurt, or you didn't want to get caught, or maybe you were trying to protect someone. And so what I grew to realize is you don't lie because you're trusting yourself and other people instead of trusting God. And if you've already come to terms with God and accepted his peace, then you know you don't have to be perfect, and you know you will lie, and you don't have to deny it anymore. You can simply say, I lied. And then God will work through this process with you and whoever the other person was, and hopefully you'll both learn something terrific and resolve it, and you'll learn how to play together better. And it's just, so it always comes back to this, you have to know God in your heart. You can't I can't read the Lord's Prayer and say, by God, I know how to do it. Or the 10 Commandments, or I can't walk out the door because someone said, go and love your neighbor. Or you just, if that's it, it's insufficient and it's going to fall apart. And you have to know why. And in music, I have to know why. Maybe I have to hit the note with my pinky, switch to my second finger, stay relaxed so I can reach up to a further note. I can't just say, "Is that what you mean? Put your thumb on it." And just teach them the actions, but not teach them the why. Once they know why they're doing it, it's much more interesting. And you grow. You just grow when you know why things are. So I was just thinking how wonderful it is that God says, and Jesus says, to be like God. In music, especially if you get into the classics, is the goal is simply perfection. And it's the same, right, in pro sports or anything. Whoever does everything perfectly is the great one. And I'm thinking, in faith, you can really look like you know it. And maybe the people will say, oh, you're the great one. You know all this, that, and the other thing. And what does it say? Is if you don't have love, if it's not because you grew to understand it and you want to do it because this is good, this is the way I want to go through life. I've practiced the right way to be successful, how to feel trouble and good, how to not be afraid of tough times, but not think I have to have all the answers, how to just endure and to keep the faith and let God reveal to you step by step how you're going to play the song. And it's just so nice when God, like I said last week, takes you and he plays through you. But you have to practice. You have to practice then for faith. You have to practice trust. You have to practice, I don't know why I'm supposed to I don't know why I'm supposed to have this job. I just trust that God gave me this job. and he uses me. And I don't know even specifically, like, what is the exact reason why I'm here? I don't know, and I'm comfortable with that. And it doesn't make me lackadaisical or anything. I work hard. I want to be a good servant. There are some terrific examples in the Bible where the person starts off trusting God, and then somewhere along the line they stop. And the end, this is mostly Old Testament, it ends up in either a war or chaos because something happens, and the king, in this case I'm thinking of Asa, who came a couple after Solomon. He was a good man, right? He followed the Lord. And he really did, he really followed the Lord. But as he went along, and he got he had a long, successful kingship, a couple things happened, and he didn't say, hang on, I got to ask God. I don't know what to do with this. We tend to think we know what to do. And in the end, he has a war where he gets sick. He doesn't consult God. So it's just easy to get out of practice and to revert. I tell the guy, once you learn something one way, it's so hard. It is so hard to change it. And that's the repetition of practice, is you're changing the road that your brain took through the passage of music. Even something as simple as a scale, and I tried to teach them not to go and with the elbow, and they change the tempo. Just so many uneven things. And so I say, play the first note and stay on it. And that's very difficult because they want to go right away to the next note and say, no, just stay on it. And you can see the battle going on. I say, just stay on it. And while you're on it, learn to relax everything else. In other words, focus on the one thing that you are doing. In this case, I'm playing 2 C's. And then when you go to the next note, just stay there. And what does it feel like to have switched? And what does it feel like to go through the notes? And you become relaxed, calm, and as a result of being relaxed and calm, you become fluent, which means that you convey the music, or as a Christian, maybe you convey the faith in a very graceful, elegant way that appeals to someone, instead of just, when I was a kid, I can't how many times the punishment was go home and write the 10 Commandments 40 times. So, it was I 40 times, will. And you didn't learn anything. You didn't learn anything except I did learn something. I learned that every teacher has something to teach you. And some teachers teach you things that you want to keep and store and use. And other teachers teach you why some things don't work. And I think they're both equally important. You just can't not make mistakes. You just shouldn't penalize people for making mistakes, because God doesn't penalize us. He forgave us. And so we shouldn't penalize ourselves. But on the other hand, you should seek to correct it, or to find out what is the thing about this that's not as good as a different way. I have to tell you, during the week, two things happened to me. I was talking with my wife, and we were just talking, and she said something, and then she was expressing, I was a complaint about someone, and she said, I shouldn't be complaining. And I didn't tell her this, and it just made me think. We are complaining for a reason. And so it's not good to say, I just shouldn't do it, and then replace it with something else. You have to stop and say, why? Why was I complaining? It's probably a logical reason, but there's probably a better way through it. It just struck me. I'm certainly not critiquing my wife. And then yesterday, I'm here. It's a beautiful sanctuary. I love it here, right? And I have it to myself, and I'm practicing organ, and we're getting ready for Christmas. And I finish the practice, and I turn everything off, and I'm aware of God all the time. And I thank him. I said, how is it that here I am and I get to do this? You've chosen me for this. And I'm humble and I'm grateful. And I say thanks, and I walk out, and I'm feeling pretty good. 20 seconds later, I'm sitting at the intersection so angry because the guy in front of me doesn't know to go into the turning lane. Instead, he's waiting for 4 lanes of traffic to be open before he'll go. And I know that's not going to happen for about a half hour. And I thought to myself, after each emotion was genuine, I meant each one. I'm so grateful, and I'm so angry. And it conflicted me, and I stopped and I said, how can this be, God? How can I have both these things in me, and they're both real? And I just thought about that, and I thought, well, that's the thing, is to just admit that. So I'm saying to myself, God, when it's you and you're doing, and I feel the good, I'm so grateful. And when it's me and I'm angry, I am so grateful. Because I know that that's not the best, and I can work on that. But without that, I wouldn't realize that I too, I just make mistakes. We all just do, and that God forgives us, and He just needs you to be aware. And you just carry that in your heart, and you become fluent in faith. You don't become like a good person. You just become fluent in faith. You learn to forgive. You want to be forgiven, so you forgive. You don't react to the whatever somebody says, that you say, okay, let that pass over. There's maybe something underneath that's more important. You become graceful. Yeah, you become a good musician. Anyway, so that's just what I was thinking about. And thanks for listening, and I hope you have a great week.